we doing? Let's check if we're live. Let's have a little look. Are we live? Let's check on the Facebook page. Oh, just seen some comments come in. Let's have a little look then. Are we live? Apologies if you're joining. I am literally just seeing how we are going on here, that we are live on the correct Facebook page. Yes, David, how are you doing? Nice to have someone to join. Yeah, we are live. Thank God. David, yes, you're live. Thank you very much to everyone else. Hey, Angus, how you doing? Yeah, anyone else that joined, do say hello, just so I'm not on my own today. JP, here he is. Awesome. Yeah, great to see you guys on here. It's been a while, and we have a really sorry message from Dave. He couldn't make today. He's been off for the last couple of days with a lurgy. So, but I was like, I really wanted to get back to doing Tuesday tuning because we haven't done one in 2025, which is crazy, really. It's just been a really busy time since coming back. All good stuff. But hey, Marky V, good to see you on here, mate. John Dyer, thanks for joining us. Yeah, it seems a bit late, really, doesn't it, to say Happy New Year because obviously we haven't been here. Hey, Jim, good to see you. Nice to see some legendary EverTrekkers on the live. Yeah, and how are you all? Great to see you back. Great to see that we got another year of adventures. I know a lot of you have got trips in already, but it's always good to hear how are things? How are you guys? Mark, let us know how you're getting on. I know what you're like. You've got some distant place coming up this year. You're always off on your adventures. Definitely, I know that Jerome. Hopefully, part of his New Year resolutions this year is to less rocks to find. A small but very select crew today. Yeah, definitely. Well, look, I mean, today is really. I wanted to come back, and I know a lot of you, been on the Tuesday Tune In for many a year now, since 2020 when we started doing them, and we will keep doing them in 2025. I know it's been mad. We haven't done many as of the last month, obviously over Christmas and everything. But over time, we will start to develop them a little bit more. But today, I wanted to kind of keep it short and sweet. And hopefully, I've got some questions from you guys as well. Any questions about any of our trips, anything at all, do post them. But I'm here for you guys. We'll talk about, and I've come up with kind of several of my altitude trekking life hacks, if you like. These are things that I've kind of seen over the years that can really help or make a difference when you're on an adventure, and just hopefully impart some of those. So it might be a little bit that I'm talking a lot, but hopefully you find some value in it. I'm sure some of you, especially the EverTrekker legends who've been around a bit, you've probably heard me say this a few times. But yeah, do drop in. Hey Carl, nice to see you here as well. Marky V actually managed to get away on a proper holiday. Machu Picchu later this year. Well, Mark, awesome, mate. Obviously, we'd love to have you along. Wendy, nice to see you here. To everyone that's just caught up, just joining us, you'll see that Dave is not invisible. He isn't in today. Yeah, he's got a bit of the lurg. Hopefully, he's back for next week's Tuesday tune in. But yeah, I'll start off. When it comes to these life hacks as well, they're kind of something that I think that can definitely make the difference if you're struggling on a trip, or you're you're not having the best of time, or you could have been having your best of time and you're just struggling with the altitude. I always think it's good to talk and to go back to the basics. Essentially, what I've been talking about in my email earlier today was around basics, and I feel sometimes we can complicate stuff with all of the best tech, all of the best equipment, all that stuff, but we forget about the basics. And over the years, we've found that going back to basics and sticking to the tried and tested things of altitude works. So I do want to kind of cover some of those off. And the first one, number one on my list. Look at this, got a lovely list here, guys. Number one is water. Now, I know I talk about hydration a lot over the years, and I must sound very boring to most people. Can you stop talking about drinking water? But there won't go a day, certainly at high altitude, where water isn't important. And that's cold and warm water as well. I know we talk about hydration, and we talk about getting 3 liters a day down while you're at altitude, but actually it's more than that as well. Um, I suppose hydration is at all levels. It's good to hydrate before you actually go on a trip. So I know a lot of people are thinking, okay, especially people like me, I don't drink a lot during the day. Sometimes I have to force myself. I said, no, come on, you've got to drink at least 1.5, 2 liters a day normally. Um, so I've got to kind of remind myself sometimes. Now I haven't got it here, but I do have a bottle that has like a measurement on there, and that reminds me that I've got to get my certain level per day. Um, but it is important that before you go on a trip to turn up hydrated as well. Um, and look, I know what it's like. You arrive at the airport, you're excited to get into your trip, and what's the first thing you do? Gotta have an airport beer. I remember doing a poll years ago, and I asked all the EverTrekkers in the group, when does your holiday start? When does your trip actually start? Is it when you pack? Is it when you get to the airport? Is it when you arrive? Is it the start of your trek? And it was interesting, actually. A lot of people voted for it starts when you have your first drink at the airport. Um, and yeah, I connect with that. Trust me, I do. I think the holiday definitely starts then. And although that is part of hydration, you'd have to take it a little bit seriously, and you want your body to be in a good place when you start a high altitude trip. So although that you obviously want enjoyment, and I don't want to put a dampener on any party when you land, it's always good to kind of focus on, right, I'm coming here for the challenge. Let's get hydrated before I go on the trip. Let's have a few beers, if you're a drinker. No worries if you're not. Have a relax, connect with the group, enjoy yourself, but you're here to do something serious, that you've got to take seriously as well. So yeah, it's important, and that's why water for me is huge. Hey Rich, how you doing? Hey Andrew, Dipak, nice to see you on here. Look at this, all the EverTrekker Yetis coming out of the woodwork now. Now we're back. Great stuff. It's nice to see you all back. Yeah, and when it comes to water as well, I know we're always talking about cold water and drinking water, but also as well warm water. I know the body kind of hydrates better when it hasn't got a warm water up. So, and I know this is challenging at altitude, right? If you're out there and you've got your bladder on your back and you're sipping your water, it's going to be quite cold because you're in a cold environment. But ultimately, if you can drink kind of room temperature water, your body can kind of use it quicker, so it doesn't have to heat it up to the kind of degree that it needs. So, Jim, I still don't understand the pint at the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning. I know, Jim, I've been there, I've done that, and I don't know why. It's probably because it was 5 o'clock PM somewhere in the world. That's probably what it was. But yeah, you're right. It's I kind of don't do that as much now, to be honest. Definitely 5 p.m. I'm certainly having one. But yeah, a bit more coffee o'clock. That is for me. 5 a.m. Geez, that is early. That is definitely a red eye flight. But yeah, when it comes to hydration, as I said, obviously you've got the normal hydration. Make sure you drink enough literage. Also, as well, about temperature of water, and that comes with drinking coffee, teas, anything else as well. I know a lot of people, especially, it's difficult when you're in a camp. Say you're on, say you're camping in Machu Picchu, or say you're on Kilimanjaro and you're at a camp, and it's difficult to get a lot of hot water. But if you're at like a tea house or a lodge, or maybe on Tour de Mont Blanc, you've got easy access to, or relatively easy access to warm water. Try and get some warm water in you as well. Not only makes you feel nice, but also as well, it is good for your body, a good cleanser. And also as well, I was reading something quite recently over Christmas around electrolytes in the body, and the drinking actually too much water can flush all those good electrolytes out of your body. Now it's difficult to find the balance of altitude because you know that because you're altitude, your body's working harder, you're peeing more because naturally what your body does is try and produce to get more oxygen around the body, produces more red blood cells. And naturally, it's like a diuretic effect, so it makes you pee more. So you've got to drink more to supplement that, which is nuts, really, isn't it? But if you can, when it comes to think about as well about those nutrients, is that you don't want to go the other end of the spectrum. You don't want to do like 5-6 liters and then you're flushing everything out. I'd say if you can find a balance around about 3-4 liters, I think you're generally safe at altitude. And then that gives you a good head start as well. That's why I know a lot of you that have been around the bush, especially on the Tuesday tune in, especially in the EverTrekker community over the years. Water is kind of, it's a staple, isn't it? We talk about it all the time. We talk about water, we talk about speed, talk about those kind of key things that help at altitude. Um, Also, as well, is the number 2 on my list. A bit of a hack, bit of a. I suppose we should be aiming for this anyway. Is that any high altitude trip you want to plan for 4 seasons? So you don't want to, even if you go into say Toubkal, even if it's the middle of summer, you still want to take out there 4 seasons proof of gear. And I know it's difficult because if you go in for say a weekend on like our 4-day Toubkal trip, um, to carry a lot of stuff with you for a weekend, you obviously take your expedition bag or you take your suitcase. It's hard, isn't it? Because you think, I'm only going for a weekend. I don't need all that. But if you can aim to have, for the 4 seasons worth of gear, even in Morocco, it can rain, it can snow, it does get cold, especially the wind. I mean, geez, I've been on Toubkal. I know a lot of EverTrekkers had. We had our first EverTrekker summits of the year this week in Toubkal and on Kilimanjaro. And Toubkal especially was cold. Looking at the conditions there, it looked awesome. I mean, the views, to anyone that's been on top of Toubkal, the views are fantastic. And I've been lucky to summit Toubkal a couple of times, and every time has been like beautiful views. Luke, hi guys, happy New Year! Looking forward to getting Toubkal conquered this March. Awesome, Luke. Look forward to seeing your pictures, mate. Just talking about Toubkal. Even Toubkal, especially in March, you do want to plan for 4 seasons. So that's number 2 on my list. So you want to make sure you plan for the rain, you plan for the cold, you plan for the heat, because even in Nepal, even the Himalayas, even in winter, it's still hot during the day. And especially when the sun is out, in your high altitude, just especially if you're in a place like Peru in the Andes, it can harm you. So you've got to make sure that you're planning for 4 seasons. Moving away from equipment, I know I talked about water equipment, something a bit more kind of psychological, but a bit of a hack that I've seen a few EverTrekkers use over the years, and something I do as well, is that I always pack some personal pick-me-ups. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Personal pick-me-ups. Try and say that 10 times. But it's something that actually I saw when I was on a Kili expedition 5 years ago, and it was Roche, and every day she had a bag. Every day would be a new bag that she'd pre-done this, and she'd written a nice little positivity message in there and some sweets. I think she had something else in there as well, and I thought, awesome. I love just the psychological effect of choosing to do that, so that every day, doesn't matter how she's feeling, doesn't matter how she's doing at altitude, because altitude can suck at times. It's awesome, but it can also be difficult. But she had something that can give her a mental pick me up. Now I know that's a lot. I'm not saying I do that, but it's good to have something that can give you a bit of a pick me up. I know for me, I do like a chocolate bar from time to time. I do like Snickers. So for me, I do take a pack of Snickers, and if I'm ever feeling down, I won't touch it until I'm really in a time where I think, oh, I need that. So I'll go to it, and it does. It makes you feel just that little bit better. Just that, especially after 2, 3, 4, 5 days of walking, you've got something that can just snap you out of it, can disrupt that pattern that you're in. Maybe you've been a bit of a negasaurus that day. Maybe you're just, it's just been one of those days, and you want to snap out of it, and you need to interrupt that pattern. A personal pick me up is amazing, and it can completely change your trip. So that might be different for all of you, and it's interesting actually to throw this out to in the comments. What would pick you up if you having a bad day? What would you put in your bag that would be a personal pick me up? Always interested. Is it a photo of the family? Is it I don't know, chocolate bar like I said? Is it some motivational words? Always interested to hear your thoughts, guys, as well. Hey Diane, nice to see you on. Hello between lessons. Happy New Year, mate. Great to see you on here. I hope all is well in 2025. You're gonna smash it this year, Diane, as always. Yeah, great to see you on here. As well, I know I'm kind of jabbering on, guys. Any questions as well? Obviously, I'm here to answer any questions today. I know I'm talking about life hacks, about altitude, about trekking, but any questions do drop in the comments as well. Okay. Um, Number four. So yeah, just moving away from pick me ups. I'll wait to see in the comments. Hopefully, we'll come back to it. But number four was kind of a big one as well, and it's something actually I talk a lot about in. I don't know if you've seen. I've been posting on in the group. We've been doing quite a lot the last 6 months. Is our couch to Kili, couch to Everest, and couch to Machu Picchu kind of training, live training essentially. And one of the bits I talk about is the four Fs, basically around tackling the mental side of challenges. And one of those Fs is fear. And in with fear, because I feel like, and this is why it's on my list. And in a hack, it was because it's something that is not that tangible. It's great talking about you can have water. It's great that we can talk about you've got to have a down jacket and okay, personal pick me ups. Yeah, some great, and thanks for your comments as well. Andrew took pics of my four cats when I did Langtang. Amazing, love it, love it. Richard, I took on that idea. I had a note for my family and friends: Haribo, Kendall mint cake, and a cereal bar. This for each day. That sounds like a great. I love the fact you use that, Rich. That's amazing. Um, you can't say four Fs. Well, I know, but it works. It's four Fs. Um, yeah, and fear out of all those, because we got fear. You can guess at the other three Fs. I won't always go into them. But one of them is fear, and it's something that we as people we have that part of our brain, the kind of lizard part of our brain that protects us. And it's good. It does its job. It stops us from hopefully walking in front of vehicles, and if there's a loud noise, there's a reason why we kind of duck. There's that lizard part of our brain that's from self-preservation. But actually, over time, as we and sometimes it can be because of your upbringing, it can be because of a traumatic event, it can be from many different things, even from happy events. But it can actually also hold you back from some stuff. Um, so when I talk about the four Fs, and one of them being fear, is that fear actually, especially in the world we live in now, where there's a lot of fear going around, and in the news, on social media, and I know obviously we're on social media now, so it's ironic, but no, it's not always that positive, and it can create that element of fear. So I always think it's good to be cognizant of that, because especially these fears, they can hold us back. But what I've found is, and I've seen this in the EverTrekker community, like what is on the other side of fear, all the wonderful memories and adventures and friends and special moments that are on the other side of fear. Um, it really is something that it's okay to have fear, like I said, because it keeps you going, keeps you alive. But it's also good to be cognizant of certain fears that sometimes can be irrational. They can hold you back. They can be obstacles. And just the fact is of recognizing those things, you can actually start to overcome them, start to deal with them, start to deal maybe where they come from, start to feel how you can kind of, work on that going forward. So when it comes to these challenges, then, especially at high altitude, because there are obstacles, I know a lot of them for me were, a lot of I'm an asthmatic. One of the big fears of my mind was, how would I do at altitude? How would I breathe? Is it different? How am I going to be if I'm not as fit as I want to be? Then there's other fears that we have, about heights or, fear of slowing people down. There's all these things that creep in, to our mind, but it's good to address them head on, and even if you're talking with people about them, it's better than leaving them kind of fester and become something that can hold you back from a really amazing life. So yeah, that was that. Number four was on my list. I like I wanted to talk about that a little bit, just so we can start to think about, okay, what is holding you back this year in 2025? What things have you had maybe from your past that you want to overcome in 2025. And because I hate to I always like to I hate to be kind of generic New Year's resolutions, all that stuff. But you know what? If we can kind of draw a line and say, okay, 2024 was an amazing year, had some great stuff happens, but what held me back from making it an even better year? What can I make 2025 even more better than the previous year? That's why that is on the list. And number 5, again, is similar theme around this and the mental stuff is your why. The why we do stuff is so important, and I feel like sometimes it isn't as it's not given the light it should have, because it can motivate and change your trip. Like a lot of people, a lot of EverTrekkers here who will go in for the personal challenge. You'll go into, say, Everest Base Camp, or you're climbing Kilimanjaro, or Toubkal, or Tour de Mont Blanc, or you go to Machu Picchu because you want to, because it's like not necessarily a reason, but you want to challenge yourself, and that's cool. There's other ones as well, like you're doing it for charity. Again, a really good motivator. It could be that you want to do it to remember a lost one. Life is short, and people are taken away from us sometimes far too soon. But that can be a driver, that can be a motivator for you to as a why. Or you could just want to go and tick off the bucket list, whatever it is. But it's always important to remember the why, because I think the why, again, go into the personal pick-me-ups thing, which I talked about, is that sometimes you have these moments where you're struggling because it's a physical, difficult challenge. And sometimes you want to go back to your why that can give you that motivation to continue. And I found that, again, just even if you write it down, even if it's there in the back of your mind, just as a reminder why you're there, why you're choosing to put yourself in a difficult situation as a challenge. I find that really, really important. And then as well, off the back of it, and I know a lot of these are kind of mindset stuff. And if any of you have watched Tuesday Tune In before, you'll know that I like to focus on the mind a lot. It's a very powerful tool. But is goals. That's number 6 on my list, is goals. Because I feel like goals, dreams, resolutions, there's many different words. If it's good, these goals, firstly, to write them down. Like, okay, I am going to summit. My goal this year is to go and summit Kilimanjaro. That's a nice goal. But it's good to kind of break that down, because sometimes we can write these goals and they seem unachievable. They seem too difficult. I remember the first time when I said to someone I was going to Everest Base Camp, and people were like, "Oh wow, why are you going there?" I've heard it's really expensive, and there was obviously these blockers because they didn't know about going to Everest Base Camp at the time. And to be honest, before the first time I went, I'd only read stuff on books, or there wasn't this. It was very different. But once I set that as a goal, and then I kind of learned a little bit more about it, and I started to chunk it down. So okay, I'm going to get to Everest Base Camp. Cool. Okay, so what does that mean? What am I going to do to get there? Well, one, I don't want to struggle, so I'm going to do the fitness. I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to train. I'm going to learn about the place. So when I go there, I know what's around me, and I'm going to embrace the challenge. And so you're chunking it up, and then each one of those things then you can chunk up again. So again, with getting fit, how do you break that down into kind of daily or weekly challenges that you set yourself that then get you to Everest Base Camp? I go back to what I said at the beginning around water, is that you need to turn up to a trip feeling good, feeling hydrated. And that could be part of your goals. Because again, if you're chunking that up, then each goal is a win. And then when you celebrate those wins, you start to feel good. We all do that, don't we? We do it on social media, where we watch something that entertains us and it makes you feel good. Hopefully Tuesday Tune In does. But it's interesting then that you can, those things that you kind of do and you start to feel and celebrate the wins. You get that dopamine hit. It does make you feel good, doesn't it? And it's the same with these trips. It makes you feel good because you go in there and you're doing something that you said you were going to do. So you're achieving those goals, and it's a wonderful feeling. So that's why it's on my list. Um, Nice question as well, and thanks. Look, and I appreciate. I know we're going deep today, and that wasn't my intention, but it's great that you guys are, and thanks for your questions as well. And Diane, look, I know it's been a very very difficult time for yourself and your family, and thanks for sharing this as well. And I know you're going to go back Island Peak, and Katie is your reason for doing it, and that's going to be awesome. And it's great that again you're using you're obviously raising money um, for Beat as well, which is amazing. So good on you, mate. Good on you. And hopefully you can join the Summit Zone call tomorrow. It'd be good to see you. Yeah, really good question as well from Dipak actually. How do you handle the fear for your friends and family? It's a really, really good question. Um, I would say the biggest one is through education. I remember the first time I said I was going on one of these challenges years ago. My dad, who I'm very close to, um, he was like, no, you got to be careful. That's what he says, be careful. And I know it's obviously coming from a good place, and I'm like, Dad, it's okay. But he couldn't stop worrying until I got back. And I think I learned from that, and since then, you just get them on board with the learning aspect of it, even if it's getting a map out and showing where you're going, even if it's kind of maybe getting them maybe to watch some of the Tuesday tune-ins or reading some of the content, just so you know that, because I think some words, when you say you go into places like Everest Base Camp or Toubkal or Island Peak, well, there's some words, like when you say Everest, to people that don't really know about what that means, there's a lot of that. There's danger. When there's that in the word, people think of danger. So I think the way of that is to educate the people that think that through videos, through watching stuff like this, through listening, through reading, maybe watching a documentary or two, and also as well showing them some success. I think, yeah, definitely Dipak. There's, I remember when I went to Everest Base Camp, and on the way back, I was sharing on socials as you do, and I posted that I went to Everest Base Camp and I was in Namche. I was having a beer. I remember Dave, and he commented saying, "Oh my God, I've always wanted to go to Everest Base Camp." And he commented, and I remember he said when we got back, because we were obviously friends for a while before then, and I think for him, just seeing someone else who just a regular normal person, um, who wasn't like a massively fit athlete or anything, but just a friend who went out there and done it. It actually made him go, "Oh, okay, yeah, okay, I can do that." It's that actually, I think, although we all like to be trailblazers, it's always nice to see someone else do it first, isn't it? Um, that adventure in us will be like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. So I think, yeah, definitely, if you can show your family or friends, maybe some of the videos and content that we've got about people doing it, normal people doing it, everyday people doing it, then hopefully that fear will reduce. Sometimes it's contact as well with friends and family. It's good to have those communication channels. I know it's a lot easier these days to get signal and stuff, and it's evolved. I know you used to have to go to a country and get like a SIM in country. Now you can have like eSIMs. You can also use the Wi-Fi when you can. So maybe just find out a little bit about what's the signal going to be like before you go on a trip. As an example, if you go to Kilimanjaro, there's a couple of days actually before the summit that you don't get any signal. So just to, again, so your friends and family don't worry, just tell them that, so they're not going to worry then whilst you're on the trip. So just keeping those communication channels open, if that's important, because especially if you've got a close family and they want to know how you're doing. It's natural, isn't it? They want to share in your adventure. So yeah, have those communication channels definitely. But yeah, that was a really, really good question. Steph Bound, yeah, it makes a really good point that knowledge is power. Yeah, exactly. I think when it comes to knowledge, Dave says it really well. Like knowledge dispels fear. Is certainly, for me, having more knowledge about certain areas of the world has made me want to go there, and it certainly has made me more comfortable with challenges. Again, go back to what we said then about family and friends, about giving them a bit of knowledge. Yeah, I think it's really good shout. And Jerome, Andy, taking risks every day, either high altitude or starting your own company. Exactly, mate. Tell me about it. Yeah, it's there's risks in life, right? But hey, you get one life. You've got to, for me, I've always, okay, I'm probably more of a risk taker than most people, but yeah, I think it's healthy to take some risks. I value doing that kind of thing. Um, and I know all of you who are here today. You've taken risks in your life. You've gone for it. You've gone out of your comfort zone. You've gone out of the norm to make your life better, and that is awesome. And that's why I love the EverTrekker community. It's full of amazing people. Um, yeah, sorry, just to finish off my life hacks. It's interesting actually because I actually left it blank. I left number 7 blank. See, look at that. It's because I wanted to kind of see, because when it comes to hacks, like there's so many things you could put in there. Like I could say bring a power bank, which is fine, and you can. But after all of this, I feel like something, because we're talking about goals, we're talking about the why, we're talking about overcoming fear. Um, I like to think that after you do all these things, I know a lot of you have already done one of our trips already, some of you haven't, is that you've got to celebrate these things, celebrate the wins, certainly where you can, because I think in life, you do get the struggles, you do get the downs, so celebrate the ups. And that's not a pun because we're going to altitude, and you have a lot of ups and downs in the mountains. But do celebrate these things, like each day. Celebrate what you've done. High five. Whatever it is, but you just celebrate with your teammates. I think each day it'll definitely, if you go into top of Kilimanjaro, each day, some days are easier than others, but they're not easy days. So celebrate each day. Yeah, man. High five in camp. You've got there. Brilliant. Come on, come on now. Let's do this. We're gonna hit the summit, and it can help all the other things. Then it can help overcoming the fear. It can help those obstacles that happen, just by celebrating those kind of key wins. And then when you get to the summit, celebrate even more. Absolutely. There's so many ways you can celebrate. It doesn't have to be the summit, by the way. Lots of people. Um, the success is different for all of us, and it's not competition. What's winning for one person isn't winning for another. I feel like sometimes just getting down is a win, right? Especially in the mountains, because it can be so dangerous. Sometimes getting home to your family, that's the most important thing. That's winning. But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, whatever you choose to do. There were some questions, wasn't it? Sorry, I know I've kind of jabbered on for a bit, but I think there was a couple of questions on here which I'll answer. Where is it? Hoping each day, will there be a flush toilet, and where is it? Andrew, I see where you're going. I'm sorry, I thought it was a question, but I can see where you're going. Yeah, that is definitely a goal. Definitely hoping each day that there is a flush toilet, or if there isn't, mate, just somewhere to go to toilet. Right? That is definitely something. Oh, excuse me. That you are aiming for. A few drinks in Sam's bar. I wonder if it's still there. Yeah, wow, it's Sam's bar. Yeah, because in Kathmandu. Because Andrew, when was the last time you were in Kathmandu? I bet it's been a while, mate. But yeah, I'm struggling to remember. Um, Interested. And Diane, again, great to have you on, and thanks for sharing as well. And like when you went to Poon Hill, I know it was a big moment for you guys. The whole ABC trek was a win for myself and Rob. I know they're so lucky to be able to share the moments. Exactly. That was you celebrating that, and celebrating also the life of Katie as well, and amazing really that you guys then went and did it together. Sharing in these moments is massive, isn't it? I think we go back to the why, we go back to all this stuff we're talking about. I think that's why for me, like a big part of going on these trips, um, is actually the people you connect with and the sharing of experiences. And obviously, you can share it with your family, you can share it with a friend, you can share it with the people you meet on the trip that can then become your friend. And that's we always talk about friends to be discovered. Something my good friend Max said to me before we went backpacking when I was 20. And I remember we were in, where was it? The first time we were in Prague, actually, in a hostel. And after an amazing weekend with this, there was about 20 people there. Saying goodbye was the hardest thing, Like I remember I had tears in my eyes. I was like, am I going to see these people again? We did. We met a couple of guys about a month later in Thailand. But it was like I was really sad that that moment was coming to an end. But actually, I got to appreciate it from then on. That actually saying goodbye, it's just appreciative that you've had that time. Um, what was it? Someone said like, "Don't be sad it's over. Just be glad that it happened." That kind of mentality. It took me a while to get used to that. But again, when you're on trips now, it's great that you can connect and make friends, and it just people connect on one trip, and then they go and climb. Say they go to Everest Base Camp, they go Kili, and then they go to Toubkal and Machu Picchu or Tour de Mont Blanc. It's just I love that community aspect of it. Sylvie, nice to have you on here as well. Hi Andy, I joined when you were just finished talking about hydration and water. I've hiked for decades, Toubkal, doing Kili. Never used a bladder or water pouch or whatever it's called. That's okay. Just 1 litre bottles, and I'm used to hydrating that way. Is that okay, or do I need to buy a bladder? Not a silly question at all. Honestly, when it comes to water, like the goal of drinking enough water is the goal. Doesn't matter how you get there. If you don't have a bladder, that's fine. If you've got a water bottle and you achieve that goal of drinking enough water, that's fine. That's perfect. I don't think that you have to have all the best equipment to enable that. As long as you're safe and you hydrate properly, then Sylvie, that's perfectly fine. Like sometimes I go on hikes and I don't take my water bladder. I just take a couple of water bottles because that's fine for me. Normally I will, just because it's habit. And over time I realize it's kind of easier because one, when I'm looking around, instead of taking my bag off and get my bottle, or sometimes I'll ask my mate, "Oh, can you grab my bottle?" and they'll grab it. But if no one's around or I'm on my own, you got to take your bag off. So sometimes just having the kind of the bladder makes it a little bit easier. And we always talk about looky, sippy, sippy. So when you're looking around, take a sip. So that's where it comes from the bladder. And yeah, mate, if you can get one, great. I think it saves you having to get your bottle out all the time. But if not, it's fine. As long as you achieve your goal of drinking enough your water on a trip, meaning you've achieved that goal, that's fine. No worries. Um, Carl, I find that using a bladder, I tend to drink more fluids, don't have to reach around for a bottle. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, sometimes that has detrimental effect because you're the one that drinks enough water and you're the one that's like, sorry, pee break, my turn. You're like, it's you gotta stop and you've got to find a space to go to toilet. But look, if you're hydrating enough, however you get there is fine. Don't worry about it. Um, Steph, Patagonia 2026, can't wait. Yeah, I bet. It's mad, isn't it? You're talking about 2026 and it doesn't feel that far away. It's for me, it only feels like yesterday. It was 2020. Whereas these last 5 years gone, guys, absolutely crazy. But Steph, awesome. Yeah, hope you're feeling good about it. Any questions as well, do let us know. Diane, no worries. Hopefully see you tomorrow. Hope the lessons are good. But nice to converse anyway, mate. Good to see you on here, and thanks for sharing your comments about it as well. I know some of them are not easy, but all the best. JP, the wrench of finishing one adventure motivates you to attempt another. The snowball effect. I like that. I like that, Jerome. I think you're right. I think as human beings, we're not used to sitting still. I think certainly if you're into adventures, and it doesn't have to be a trek, it could be anything, but obviously we're talking about trekking. Um, it is something that when you do one, you're already thinking about the next one. And hopefully, I know a lot of you choose your adventures with us, which is fantastic. And some of you, go elsewhere because we've obviously do certain type of trip. We don't do Disney holidays, for example. Nothing wrong with Disney holidays. I did Disney last year, loved it. But there's lots of adventures out there, aren't there? But look, if you choose to go trekking, you want to go to the mountains, then obviously you're in the right place. Couple of things. Sorry, I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit because I realise I've been going for about 40 minutes. Just a little bit of another win. Want to celebrate another win, really, because first Tuesday tune in since Christmas. And just want to swing back to what we were doing in December, and that is that we did we were raising money for Andy's Man Club. It's nothing to do with me. Great name. But it's a mental health and suicide awareness charity that we raised money for through the community in December. And that was part of our Yeti Yuletide Challenge. And just wanted to kind of, firstly, thanks to everyone that donated. Also, thanks to everyone that booked as well, because for lots of bookings in December, EverTrekker donated as part of that as well. So not only the donations to the community, but also from the bookings we had as well. And we actually got to, it was £2,195 that we raised as a community for Andy's Man Club, which is, just thank you so much. That was amazing. Just want to say, big 10 to everyone who got involved in that. Basically, as part of the challenge, we had to essentially do the amount of steps that you need to do to climb Everest every day as a team. So it was pretty good, all good. Got us out there, got people out of the office. It's always nice, and it's interesting. As soon as you set those goals, people are more focused on it. Like, they probably do those steps normally, but because it was something to raise money for something. Again, we go back to the why. People were more focused on it. They actually did loads more steps than they planned to do. It's really interesting, isn't it? As soon as you start measuring something, you start focusing on it, and then you hit more. That's, I really like that. But no, thank you so much to everyone who donated or booked a trip with us in December. Something else as well is that we do have, so tomorrow evening, I'm literally just checking that I've got the correct link, because I'm not prepared. Is that basically we're doing tomorrow, we are doing a Couch to Kilimanjaro live training. Now, this is basically for anyone who hasn't booked to go and climb Kilimanjaro yet. If you've done it, it's probably not for you. It's probably a little bit too basic. It's more about anyone who hasn't. Sorry, I'm trying to dig out this URL so I can share it here. But basically, it's for anyone that hasn't been to Kili or wants to do it. It's essentially, we'll be going deep into the route choice. We'll be going to we'll be talking about route choice. We'll be talking about altitude. I know basically we did a little bit of a survey off the back of it. A lot of people have been talking about altitude. Also as well around the equipment, because I know a lot of people, they've been looking at basically the cost of the equipment, which, it can add up. So we wanted to essentially make sure that everyone's got what they needed for that. So if you fancy doing that, I will just share it in here. I have found it. Apologies, I was hunting for it then. There's the Couch to Kilimanjaro live training. It'd be great to see you on there. That's tomorrow evening at 7:00. So anyone that fancies joining me, I think we've got about 25 spaces left. I think we've had over 140 people now register. So it is really popular, and there are limited amount of seats. It's the last 4 we've done have been oversubscribed, but luckily, sometimes people can't make it, obviously, and it opens up spaces. But if you fancy joining us, it is there. That's with myself, hopefully Dave, if he's back off the lurg. But I will be there talking all about Kilimanjaro tomorrow evening at 7:00. Marky V, hi Andy, gotta go. No worries. Trying to get down to catch up with you. Let us know. It'd be great to see you. It will be really, really good. No worries, Jerome. Well, guys, look, I know it's just me today, so a bit shorter than planned, about 45 minutes. I hope it's been useful talking about the life hacks for altitude trekking. And I know some of them are a little bit, they're not, power banks or this kind of stuff, which are great. I wanted to go a little bit deeper on the things that can help the mind, as well as the body, obviously, with the water and things like that. But I hope that's been useful. Dipak's got a question. Here we go. Altitude sickness. What are the rescue procedures that EverTrekker use? Does the trek leader make a call on effects, or is it the individual's responsibility? What about rescue? Especially on Kili. It's a really good question. There's a lot there. I'd say always the guide is the one that makes. The person makes the ultimate call when it comes to safety, but sometimes we have to make that call for people. And it's not that we're constantly dragging people off the mountain, like we don't do that. But ultimately, when it comes to our guides, They're all high altitude trained. Lots of them international mountain guides. Lots of them are, um, they're used to these scenarios, so they know what to look for. It's not just about some of the sats for your body, like your heart rate or your blood oxygen levels. Sometimes it's your demeanor, it's how much food you're eating, how you're talking. There's a lot of things they look at when it comes to altitude. Um, and yeah, so they do, in terms of the procedures, there's a lot there. But generally, it's not like a switch. Generally, you can spot when someone's not quite right. So you kind of start to manage that as quickly as you can. But obviously, if it gets to a scenario where going any higher is going to harm you, then yeah, we'd obviously have to get you out there. In different countries, Kilimanjaro, Nepal, Peru, different countries have different rules. Like in Nepal, there's a lot more helicopters involved. Sometimes you don't have to get a helicopter. You can descend by, say, 500 meters and you can start to feel much better. So there are a lot of things. Also, we use diamox. If there's oxygen you need, there's lots of things that we do like that. And majority of the time, it's between the guide and the person to make the decision. But, and I've been there. I've been on treks with people and I'm just like, look, I know you want to go higher, but life's more important. And, we got to get you down. And sometimes, it's emotional. Hopefully that won't happen, Deepak. You do lots of things we talked about today. Hopefully that won't happen. But and again, I know from a knowledge perspective, especially sharing with family, the teams are very experienced on dealing with a lot of these scenarios. It is very rare that it happens, but it does happen. But they are very, very on it when it comes to that scenario. And it's why people trek with us a lot, when it comes to these things, is that, you want to make sure people have got your back. And I like to think, we built a team now that can do that for you. So, yeah, Deepak, hopefully that answers your question, mate. No worries, Jim. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. It's great to have you on here, and thanks for bearing with me today. I know it's just me. Hopefully that was a little bit useful, but I hope life is good, and we'll see you guys again next time. Hopefully Dave will be back, right? Hopefully he's here. Cheers, guys. All the best. Bye. See you guys.